I can make a lot of money helping people with malware defense, data recovery, and management of the network infrastructure. But if the customer I'm talking to doesn't care about those or thinks that he or she already has those squared away, it doesn't matter how much money I think I can make. What I try to do is broach the topic and kind of feel out like what's of interest to the client. What do they actually care about? That's where you're going to get in. You don't need to sell fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You need to sell the ability to help with whatever control they might be lacking in right now.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Incident Report presented by Quest Technology Management. I'm Paul Burke, Director of Technology Communications. Every week, I'm joined by VP of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke. The Incident Report brings you conversations with thought leaders, business innovators, and channel mavericks to help you stay productive and agile in a changing technology landscape. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Incident Report. This is episode 70, which feels like a milestone, but I guess 70 isn't really known for anything. I don't do this remarkable podcast alone. I'm here with Adam Burke across from me. Adam, how are you doing?
Paul, excited to be here. I'm not quite sure what's important about the number 70, but hey.
Episode 70. Glad you're here. Thanks for being here. How's the week been?
Week's been good. It's been a busy week. Unfortunately, there's some bad actors going around right now. So we run an incident response, incident containment team. So there's some people out there with some things going on and people getting into trouble. And it's been a busy week from a security standpoint. So I hope everyone's doing okay and everyone's out there fighting the good fight. But it's been a little crazy.
And also, when you're hearing this, Adam, you are at CVX as this is being broadcast.
It is, yes. So we're at CVX. We got a booth there. It's at the Scottsdale Talking Stick Resort. Great convention. Going to be a lot of fun.
Broadcast as if right now you are there. What are your thoughts on CVX? How do you feel about this event?
Well, Paul, the show is fantastic. Really excited to be here. Hey, Candy, how you doing? About to kick off our security panel, 12 o'clock. So come on by. We'll be there.
And Adam, I just want to say thank you for pulling yourself away from CVX for 30 minutes and doing this podcast with us. Let's get into the stories.
Let's do it. Absolutely.
All right, ScanSource earnings, Adam. Cisco, Intelisys paved the way for recurring biz. What are your takeaways? Oh, by the way, if you want to follow this, channelfeatures.com, all the links in the description. What are your thoughts on the article, Adam?
Well, it was interesting. The ScanSource team, obviously a big distributor, so in hardware. So they had some interesting takes on softening demand for some hardware purchases in their specific hardware business. But It was also interesting to hear about the Intelisys revenue and how they were kind of we've been hearing about this whole idea of this convergence of the VAR reseller space with the reoccurring revenue model. So ScanSource was one of the first organizations to acquire and purchase one of the big TSBs. Back in the day, they were called master agents. And they've been part of the ScanSource team for a long time. So it's been interesting to see how that revenue model and that transition has happened. And the growth within the Intelisys community and also leveraging what ScanSource is doing. So interesting feedback on the different verticals, the growth in the reoccurring revenue model that Intelisys provides to the ScanSource book of business. Sounds like they had a great quarter. So that was cool. Exciting to see those types of numbers are always fun to say, right? So I think they posted net sales of $876 million for the quarter, about 7% decrease over the previous year. With the fun thing about ScanSource and Intelisys is they're publicly traded, so they actually publish their numbers. I don't know if anyone's ever been to a channel event where certain private companies maybe they throw around numbers that are real, maybe not. But Intelisys and ScanSource are publicly traded. They have to publish all their earnings. So it was interesting to see the business model. They were a little over $100 million in gross profit, and you get to kind of see their margin and how they do business. So it's always interesting to me.
Is it a challenging transition for a VAR to go to a recurring revenue model?
Well, it's funny you say that because they bring about they mention the Cisco angle here, right? The Cisco environment, WebEx calling, and Meraki services and managed services getting into here, and they kind of evangelize this idea of VARs selling reoccurring revenue based solutions. I think the president of ScanSource, Mike Barr, he's quoted here saying that He's encouraging hardware VARs to sell reoccurring revenue. And this has been talked about for years. It's been talked about for years. I mean, I think the first time we heard this back when John Chambers was the CEO talking about, hey, you need to get your businesses to a reoccurring revenue model. I think Tim's been on before and he's talked about sitting in the gold partner lunch at Cisco back with Chambers and saying, this was talked about back then, prior to the financial crisis. So, I mean, we're in 2023. If you have not invested at least a little bit in reoccurring revenue, I don't know why you're waiting. I don't know what you're doing. I'm not quite sure where you've been or what rock you're under, not to be offensive to anyone, but like, come on. Like it's going, it's happening, it's everywhere. We talked last week about the different marketplaces and places that people are helping to source things. If you're not investing at least in being aware of reoccurring revenue, you're in deep trouble. Like, I'm surprised you're still in business.
What do you think that's about? What's the holdup?
Well, it's difficult. It's hard to deliver on. So you have all these different manufacturers and suppliers trying to like lower the barrier of entry to getting organizations into that subscription model to help them execute on that. Wall Street and the powers that be want people to subscribe to services. They want people, for whatever reason, the valuation of companies are much higher when you have subscription reoccurring based revenue. And all the sellers out there, all the people on the street, the small businesses, the regional VARs, everybody, a lot of people have built their businesses over the last 20, 30 years to execute on transactions. Hey, you're going to buy this widget from me for $25, and I'm going to buy that widget from the supplier from distribution for $18, and I'm going to live on that spread. That's great as long as you can do it. And a lot of people have built their comp models to do that. So they've built their comp models to pay their sales force based on margin and gross profit of a single transaction. What we've seen, and this is back when we started our channel program, and I talk like our channel program was the beginning of the channel engagement. It's not. The channel existed 20 years before we started ours, but that was the genesis for our program. And we heard a lot back in 2010, 2011. Everything was convergence. You had the telecom spend and you had the VAR ecosystem. And the guys who started slinging circuits and AT&T when Bell got broken apart and all the different regional Bell organizations stood up and all the telecom spending kind of got broken apart to all the agent communities. People built their businesses around reoccurring revenue selling circuits as independent agents. And then you had the VAR community, like where Quest came from, reselling hardware, software, single transactions. You drop ship 200 laptops to someone's location. They pay their bill. You collect the gross profit. You and I both went to college on that gross profit, so thank you very much. And that's the way people built their businesses. Back when we started our program, the whole idea was those two worlds were going to converge and combine into one unit, into one type of a service offering. Some have. A lot of organizations have adopted a little bit, but I'd say we're still at the 80-20 type of the line here. And I think it gets down to how people get paid. I really do think it gets down to how salespeople get paid and how customers want to consume it.
That's a great point. How do you think ScanSource has like differentiated themselves since they were named as America's Distributor of the Year? Is there anything that you notice in ScanSource's way of doing business that stands out for you?
Well, so in the article, they talk about they won the Distributor of the Year for Cisco, right? We talk about this a lot. The manufacturers like Cisco and Microsoft and HP or whoever it is, they really want their distributors and their sales partners to develop a practice around their technology, around their stack. If you have you'll hear it from the channel managers out there all the time. Hey, you guys really what's your Cisco practice like? What's your Microsoft practice like? What's your Palo Alto Networks practice like, right? They really want you to build a practice offering around it, because if you build a practice around it, I'm not being cynical, because I know everyone kind of thinks like, well, man, Adam, you're always kind of cynical about this stuff. I'm not cynical. It's just the rules of the game. If you build a practice around it, that's a sunk cost. That's labor. That's people that you're basically dedicating to that offering. And that's attention, right? You and I both joke around about Gary Vaynerchuk all the time, but he's all about attention. And if you want a reseller or a distributor like ScanSource to focus attention on your product, well, you get them to, what's the biggest cost that goes into everything we do? It's labor, it's people, it's our attention. So if you get your people to have their attention focused on Cisco branded products and Cisco Stack, Cisco Switch, all that kind of stuff, or Microsoft or whatever the practice is, well, you're going to be focused on pushing that product. That's where your attention is. That's what you've decided to value. So if you build a practice on something like that, they've been recognized as distributor of the year because they're a unique organization that built a practice specifically on Cisco. And that's a powerful thing. Cisco's a huge organization. They move a lot of product. And for a distributor like ScanSource to go from North American distributor to worldwide distributor of the year, that's a big deal.
All right, up next, we're jumping over to channel-E2E.com. Adam, how and why you should implement CIS Critical Security controls as an MSP. As your client's trusted technology advisor, it's critical for managed service providers to keep up with the latest standards in cybersecurity and help protect clients' assets from threats. This dives into CIS, why it's important. Adam, what are your thoughts?
I love the fact that it lists out all the controls. So if you're looking to learn about cybersecurity, this is free education right here. Yeah, does it have a little bit of a vendor slant from a blog post standpoint? Yeah, of course, everyone's talking their book. But this is great. We do a boot camp series ourselves where we're helping people understand some of the different areas to engage in from a cybersecurity standpoint. But love this article. It's really cool as far as kind of helping organizations implement these controls.
Are there any controls that you think are the most important where somebody should begin? Because it mentions things like asset management, access controls, vulnerability management. Anything stand out if anybody's beginning the process?
Just as a good exercise, just as a discipline kind of a standpoint, it's great just to go through these controls with your customer. This is a great opportunity. I mean, if you have that trusted advisor relationship with a client and they're willing to kind of go through this with you, these are fantastic discussion points as far as, hey, what do you have in place for your inventory and enterprise asset management? How do you inventory your software assets? Do you do you even know what you have? And then you go through data protection, you go through account management of your different software application, who has control of it. If you walk through all these different controls of your customer, I think it's going to be beneficial for you as a consultant and sales specialist in these different areas. It gives you a great look at what they're doing and how they're doing it. Also can kind of highlight for your clients, yeah, I don't really have any audit log management. I don't have any way to review active logged or baseline events or things like that, right? Or I got malware defense. That's cool. CSI control number 10 here listed out, but I don't know what I'm doing as far as data recovery. I got backups. Have I tested them? Have I done a sample recovery exercise? Do I know they're actually there when I need them? So great article, really breaks it down. And we've talked about this around layered defense. In this article, they call it defensibility. We've talked about a layered defense, the bad guys only have to be right one time. So if they do breach or if they do get access to one machine or multiple, layering those controls and having visibility of it, these types of controls are going to help with that. If I was getting into this industry right now and just starting out, I would read this, memorize it, and offer this as an assessment to go, hey, let's go talk about these different controls. How are you doing this right now?
When you approach a client, I think this is good for me. I think this is good for all the listeners. When you approach a client, how do you phrase the conversation? Do you just go down the list of all these items? Are you asking questions? How do you get that conversation started about all these different topics?
My approach is I'm trying to read what's interesting to them. What do they care about? Because I know on here, so I got malware defense, right? Control number 10, malware defense and data recovery. Controls 10 through 12. 12 is network infrastructure management. I can make a lot of money helping people with malware defense, data recovery, and management of the network infrastructure. That's bread and butter. Now I got endpoint protection for malware. I got replication as a service, DR, backup as a service, business continuity planning for data recovery, for network infrastructure management. We got monitoring, we got VPN, we got also. I can make millions of dollars as an MSP with those three things. But if the customer I'm talking to doesn't care about those or thinks that he or she already has those squared away, doesn't matter how much money I think I can make. Tim jokes about this all the time. We can have whatever cool plans we want to have. We can look through these controls and be like, hey, let's get our vendor for data protection. Let's go spend 3 weeks building out an inventory and control software asset platform because everyone's going to want asset control and software assessments.
Mm-hmm.
They might, but what I try to do is broach the topic and kind of feel out like what's of interest to the client. What do they actually care about? That's where you're going to get in. You're not going to. We were doing this boot camp around hey, cybersecurity services. If you're new to the industry, there's a ton of fear and uncertainty and doubt out there, and there's active threats going on like right now. Like while we're talking right now, there are new exploits hitting the market right now. You don't need to sell fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You need to sell the ability to help with whatever control they might be lacking in right now. That's how I try to read. Hey, what are they actually looking for help with? Not hey, pitch me something.
I love that. A curiosity mindset. You're going in, you're curious, learning, and then kind of going from there.
And you got to be humble too, because no one knows all this stuff. No one knows all this stuff. You can study every single one of these controls, and then 3 weeks later from now, there's going to be different components that make up different pieces of these controls. There's going to be new software out there. There's going to be new threats. So be really, really humble. And then I'm confident in our team and in our partner network that we can execute on whatever threats coming at us. It's kind of that blend of you got to be confident in your team or in the network you've built, but you also got to be humble to know that, hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to help with something that hopefully I can add some value to what you're looking at. And if I can't, maybe I can refer you to someone who can.
Nice. I like a little CNH, a little confidence, a little humbleness.
CNH, baby. Yeah. Not sure about that one.
Well, we're going to CNF. We're going back to channelfutures.com. IT Nation Connect. MSPs see challenges ahead with AI and hyper automation. First of all, what's hyper automation? Let's start there.
It sounds like a new made up marketing term. So I think we're in the AI bubble right now, right? It hasn't popped completely yet. And this is very reminiscent of early days in the hype cycle for like back in the .com area. So like valuations right now are stupid in the marketplace. People are making tons of money in different areas, and everyone's just kind of throwing AI into every talking point that they have.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's very, very powerful. It's going to do really, really cool things, but not everyone's kind of figured out how to monetize it yet, or to actually get it to do what you want it to do.
Mm.
And I think that some of these folks are kind of latching on to these buzzwords to get attention, right? Back to the Gary Vee standpoint. How do you get attention? Well, you wait for someone like Andreessen to talk about artificial intelligence on the Joe Rogan podcast, and then you get the Elon Musk of the world and all these guys releasing Gronk, and then, oh, by the way, yesterday Microsoft, it was reported by CNBC that Microsoft shut down all Microsoft employees' access to AI, Chat GPT, and AI services because of potential security risk. So this world's moving really, really fast, and I don't think anyone's quite figured out how to deal with it yet. I mean, when you hear Microsoft shutting down all Microsoft employee access to Chat GPT and AI capabilities, and that's basically a wholly owned subsidiary that they've dropped billions of dollars into, you got to kind of hit the pause button and kind of, hey, what are we doing here? What's actually happening? What are we plugging into our environments? One of the gentlemen in here talks about the idea of automating updates, automating and building of scripts and all that kind of stuff around releasing updates and fixing patching and automation and things like that. That's fantastic. And it's gonna be Copilot with Microsoft, and those kind of things are gonna be pretty crazy the next couple of years for those system admin folks who are out there in the Microsoft world. That's gonna be a game changer. But everyone kind of needs to tap the brakes here a little bit and just take a look around, because I don't think it's there. In my opinion, and this is just one dude's opinion, it's not as baked out as everyone thinks it is so far.
So this segment is called Adam Pours Ice Water on What's Hot.
Well, it's are you selling the actual solution, or are you trying to attract attention? If you're trying to attract attention, that's cool. Go with the AI story, go do some whiteboarding sessions, awesome.
Are you
Yeah.
selling the AI steak? Because it sounds like people are just selling the AI sizzle at them.
They're still trying to figure it out. I would agree with that. So we saw this automation before. Like I know I start telling stories from like when I got into the industry, like it's the beginning of the industry, but that's just my perspective of where I started. So I started in
Mm-hmm.
2010, and there were releases of one of the big things then was like automation and auto configuration of like VMware had created some really cool like automatic system admin like principles, right? So they had
Mm-hmm.
created a really good way to scale building out your virtual environment, replicating machines. This idea of like I got a machine and it's got an operating system and it's got these controls on it and it's got this configuration and these policies. You used to have to go in, and you remember when we had a gentleman who used to work for Quest who'd come over and load up the new computer games on our at-home PC back in the day, like in the early 90s. And it took a long
Mm-hmm.
time for him to come over and load all that stuff up and change it out. Well, to that flash forward to 2010, there was this auto configure, auto provisioning, scalability from the VMware world, and everyone was saying like, well, yeah, every system admin's out of a job. They're all out of a job. Like
Mm.
what they used to do from a system standpoint is completely taken over by VMware, and VMware is going to put them all out of work. I remember I didn't understand any of what that meant when I first started, but
Mm-hmm.
like I was like, oh wow, that sucks. Like, what are they going to do? Well, what they did was they learned how to build upon that. So they became experts in VMware. They became experts in hypervisors and building out that replication. And then how are they going to automate that? How are they going to do more with it? So I think AI is another version of that. It's in a hype cycle right now. It's in a bubble right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna pop, and then people are gonna figure out how to monetize it, and they're gonna figure out how to build upon it and use it as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I think people got to be careful of is when you automate that stuff, you got to have those good principles in place. So back to our last article around those controls, hey, you got to build that foundation, right? You got to make sure your policies are in a good state. You got to make sure your people and how you're building out your environments and all that. You got to keep that discipline there. Kind of the same story told a different way.
Adam, is there an opportunity for people to, I don't know, go to a boot camp, for instance, where they can get education, where they can find that foundation? Is there an opportunity for that for anybody?
Great subtle lead in there, Paul. Absolutely. We do have a boot camp series. It's a 6-part series. We have the first 3 in the can and completed. They're on our partner website. So if you ever want to check them out, we've gone through complex IT and integration sales, cybersecurity, and then we had one just last week on infrastructure services and how that can help folks from a foundational level. We're going into application development next couple weeks after Thanksgiving, and then we have a couple more. So yes, we have boot camp series, we have training. If you really want to like understand what's going on, there's so many good material, so much great material out there from a training standpoint. We work with TSBs too, the technology service brokers, so the Avants, Telarises, and Intelisys of the world. They're training salespeople all the time on different capabilities, and we're sponsors of that as well. So we love to help people who are looking to get involved in this kind of stuff. So
And also, if you're thinking, well, they're talking their own book, of course they're going to promote this thing. Like Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. Every session so far has doubled in size in terms of attendance. So I mean, people are coming back, and then more people are showing up. So they're getting a lot of value out of this thing.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I was like, well, yeah, maybe they want to learn about this kind of stuff, but we deal with it every day. We get to see it every single day. A lot of people who are in sales and running their own shops and things like that, they don't. We're very blessed with multiple opportunities in different silos all the time. So we get to see a lot of diversity in opportunity and engagements. So we get a lot of practices, a lot of at bats, a lot of sparring partners, if you will. So we get to develop some cool techniques, and we love to share those. And so far, it's been really well received, which is cool.
That's great. We're so excited the boot camps are going well. And a reminder, we are currently at CVX. Come by and say hi at the booth. Adam, what else is going on?
We're at the Talking Stick. Come by the booth. It'd be fantastic to see you. But it's got that going on, and yeah, just excited. Got Thanksgiving coming up. Holiday season's right around the corner here. Christmas, New Year's, and then all of a sudden, 2024 will be coming up, and we're helping folks with a lot of that end of year project crunch and things like that. So I can't believe this week is the last full week of November. which is crazy to think about, but it is.
And we also want to take a second to thank all the veterans out there for your service and sacrifice. We know we just passed Veterans Day and we appreciate you and just wanted to take a second. So Adam, thank you for your service. Thank everybody out there who's a veteran for your service as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy Veterans Day for everyone. If you're listening, appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for listening, and hope to see you at CVX.
See you next week. Thanks so much for listening. The Incident Report is brought to you by Quest Technology Management. With over 40 years of experience, Quest is a leading technology integrator working seamlessly with your staff and systems to achieve your IT goals. Learn more about everything they do at questsys.com. And if you have questions or suggestions for the podcast, you can always email Adam and myself at theincidentreport@questsys.com. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.